get started right about now. It is 6 o'clock, and I know we have some people who marked this on their calendar. They only have so much time, and they devoted that time to this right now. And so we're going to talk about cyber safety for parents, mainly with K through sixth grade students. My name is Brian Buffington. And by the way, my heart's pumping fast because you're here with me today. I got into this world of cyber safety because guess what? I have children, and I'm trying to figure it all out. And I've done some work in the past. I've got some training with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation on cyber safety. I'm in schools all the time. We've got Canada in the house, everybody. It's going to get crazy. And I hope the Mounties show up and they're going to learn with me some too there, Kim. And I'm with schools all the time. And here's the thing. There are a lot of issues that we as parents, as guardians, we really need to be aware of, and we need to be taking action. And you did the first step today. You did the very first step today because you are here with me, and you're willing to learn. And I will record this, but you're live, so you get to ask questions and interact with our group here. So, hey, it's good to see you, Michelle. I'm glad you're tuning in as well. So I'm going to share. We got 30 minutes together, so feel free in the chat to introduce yourself if you like, ask questions. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's go. Hold on one second. So I'm going to put you down here. Yes. And I think it sounds like everybody can hear me, so that's great. So I'm going to go to this one. Share. I'll just do the window. Yeah, window. No, I'll do tab. Share. Okay. Awesome. Hey, we're working. By the way, I have a job because of students. Children, they're important to me. My hope is that they are all successful and in many different ways. Success means a lot of different things today. But one thing that's really we have not spent a lot of time on is this digital world. And I'm holding my phone here because we don't have a class on this. There should be a class. You get 30 minutes tonight. But that's just one little piece. And so we got to continually just be very involved in this digital world with our students. So speaking of being involved, the number one tool to combating digital mayhem is going to be you, not me, not a teacher, not a principal, but you as a parent, as a guardian. That is your number one job. Your children, that's the most important thing to you, should be the most important thing to you. And it is our job to make sure they are safe and we're taking care of them. But what does that look like with all this new technology coming out? I'm going to help you with that. But let's ask some hard questions real quick. And you don't have to answer these in the chat unless you really want to. But I'm going to ask you tough questions as a parent. Do smartphones, tech, increase the quality of life for your child? We got to start at the basics, everybody. Answer that to yourself, maybe with a group that you're with, a spouse, a friend. For a kindergarten to sixth grade student, do smartphones, tech increase the quality of life for that child? So hopefully you got an answer there. I'll give some wait time. All right. So hopefully you've got something. And that answer is going to be different for everybody because here's the thing. I'm going to talk about my perspective and my experiences with many, many schools and students and parents and things I've had to deal with. But you all have your own situations. And just because something's right for me doesn't mean it's right for you. But I'm telling you in this presentation, I'm telling you things to help keep your kids safe. Okay. So your job is to decipher that and implement that if you like. But some of you just need some new ideas. So you got that question. Number 2. Why do children get devices? When I say devices, that could be tech. I mean, that could be an iPad. That could be a phone. That could be games. So why do children get devices? So ask that to yourself if you like. Oh, and someone actually just mentioned in the chat, says, Brian, it's really good to have tech when your child needs assistive programs to help that child with maybe uh, with all kind of special things, such as I've seen tech that allows a student to speak. They hit a button and that child can't talk. The button says the word that that child wants to say. And so that's a great use. That could increase the quality of life for your child. So why do children get devices? And last one, games, TV, education. Thank you. How much extra time do you have? Let's get real right here. How much extra time? Let's be honest. How much extra time do you have as a parent? Because that's going to help this whole presentation here. Because the earlier you give your children these kind of devices and technology, the more work we do have to do. But even for those with assistive technology, like we want that thing, but how do we prevent all the other things that we don't want from hurting a student? And that requires time. So how much extra time do you have? Just a thing to ask yourself. All right, let's look at a picture of a bridge. So you may know this bridge. It's a famous bridge. It's in San Francisco, the Golden Gate Bridge. It doesn't look very gold. It looks very red. Guess I need to do a history lesson there. But here's what you need to know about the Golden Gate Bridge. When people were working on the bridge a long time ago to make the bridge, a lot of people didn't make it. People were dying left and right. They were getting hurt. And guess what happened? Things slowed down. Nobody wanted to work. And guess what? Boss man's not happy. So guess what happened next? A worker came up to the boss man and said, what if we installed nets underneath the bridge in case someone falls? And the boss man probably said, oh my goodness, that's going to cost me a lot of money and a lot of time, but I guess we'll do it. I guess I'll do it. And then guess what happened after that? People started working harder. The quality started getting better. People were safe. They got to go home to their families in the afternoon. They were happy, but it took an investment. It took a guardian, in this situation, a boss, to say, you know what? I'm going to have to provide some parameters to keep my people safe so I can make sure that they get to do the things they need to do. And that's kind of what your job is as a parent, as a guardian. Let's ask some other hard questions as parents, because I have work to do. You have work to do. Oh, we got Matthew Gray from Fairbanks, Alaska. What's up? Welcome to the show. Now, what do children see when they watch us on our devices? So let's say we're at the table at a restaurant, and we're all eating, and you get a little beep on your phone, and it's just someone texting you saying, hey, what's up? Go Miami Dolphins, whatever. Miami Dolphins. Some of you know who I am, and you get sucked in. There you are at the table, and there's nachos, and there's everything around you, and your family, and your children, and you're just like, yep, I love nachos. It's cool. And you're on that phone for 2 minutes. And before you know it, you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot about my family. They exist. Our students, our children, they see that. How do we interact with people online? Let me tell you, we got adults where I live. They are a hot mess. We're talking some drama online all the time in these little Facebook groups. I don't know if you've ever been to one of these little Facebook groups where people just complaining about something, not really offering a lot of solutions or help. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some good things happening, but sometimes it's really bad. Y'all know this. I don't have to go into that. And do phones and tech keep us away from in-person relationships in our homes? Is it a hindrance? Especially when kids are young, kindergarten through 6th grade. Play is important. Like tactile, like making things and Play-Doh and reading, like even touching a book. Like I'm cool with reading on a phone, but there's distractions. Like all those things are so important, but do they keep us away from in-person relationships? I'll give you just one here. Just this, I'm preaching to the choir. This last one: post embarrassing photos of others. How many of you ever had someone post a picture of you and you're like, man, I wish you did not post that picture? That's highly embarrassing. We had to come up with a policy here at my household. Like my kids are older now. I'm like, hey, can we post this picture of you? And which because we do want to share with family. We want to share with friends. And these are good things, but Sometimes they'll be like, "Nope, don't post that picture." Or, "Yeah, I guess that's fine." And that idea of asking somebody permission to post a picture, you're teaching them how to do this right. And that's what they need us. They need us. All right. What's your worth? How much are you worth? That's a crazy question to ask of somebody. But you know that students every day they go online and they measure their worth through likes, through hearts, and we haven't even got to social media yet. But please do not put a kindergartner through a sixth grader on social media. I don't advise someone has social media until they're at least 16. That's actually coming from the United States Surgeon General. It's just the brain is still in development. It's so hard to decipher like worth and all these mixed messages and all the algorithms that are pulling on children, even young children who aren't on social media, on YouTube. They think maybe their worth is really calculated by likes and hearts, and they want to be a YouTuber, and maybe they have talent to be a YouTuber, but maybe they want to be a YouTuber for the reason of fame, and that's the way maybe they could get some worth. But we need to let children know that they're worth a lot every day. However you do that in your home, let children know that they're super important, and our world wouldn't be the same without them. However you like to do that. All right. This is so important because just recently we've had a survey come out by the CDC. This isn't just some Bobo survey I pulled off some random website. The CDC does a youth risk behavior survey. I think they do it every couple of years. And y'all check this out. And I'm going to make this a little bit larger so you can see this better. Let me see here. Slideshow. In 2011, we have two different line graphs here. We have females on top, and then males are red. They're on the bottom. So in 2011, 36% of females said they experienced persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness in the past year. And then that was 20% of males. That's 2011. But everybody, let's fast forward to 2021. You can see the trend there. It jumped over 21% of females feeling that level of sadness, persistent feelings of sadness, breaks my heart. And then males also jumped 10%, so not the same ratio, but they're still trending up higher. And they didn't put a correlation here about why this might be happening, but you need to know that the iPhone came out in 2007. And then by about 2011, we really started getting some more social media apps being presented to students. And it's also when iPhones and smartphones became cheaper and more accessible. So you could take that for what you want. I do believe from other studies, from other reading, that online usage among teens, and this is by the way, this is high school students, is social media use, online usage by teens is causing some of this sadness, this hopelessness. So I say that not to make everybody like down about tonight's presentation. Y'all listen to me. This presentation is really geared for K-6. If you're middle high, there's still hope for you too. Middle school, high school students too. There's hope for you. But if you're K-6, you have a great opportunity to get on the ball now and really say, you know what, we're going to make some policies in my household. When I say policies, I mean, we're going to talk about what is appropriate. When should my children get phones? When should they be playing games? How much should they be doing it? Really being very strategic about this. And then Neil said, COVID affected, thank you, Neil. Neil interjected, we had COVID here in the United States. So I'm very curious to see how much more it has increased due to COVID, as well as other correlations. So thanks, Neil. So I'm going to keep going here. If your child has a device, don't forget this takes time, and it depends on how much time you have. Parental settings is going to be very important. Did you know that you could take an iPhone and you can make it where it only texts or it only makes calls? You could turn off the camera. You could turn off the GPS. You could turn off pretty much everything, the maps. But most people don't know that. And for one, it does take some time. Like if you're interested in that, you go to YouTube. You say, how do I turn on my parental settings? How do I lock this thing down? And you could do this, but it requires some time. which you're already investing some time with me here today. So I want you to know that that does exist. You can do some parental settings to really say. And here's the other big question: is we ask why should a child have a phone? The number one question I get from parents, or the reasoning for phones for students is they need a phone for safety. Everybody let that sink in. And by the way, our room's growing. We got 34 people here tonight. I'm telling you, tell a friend if you want. This is getting exciting. I'm really pumped about this. But the number one reason they say, Brian, I want my child to have a phone is safety. Let that sink in. Safety. But I've already been talking about some of this other stuff that's not safe. And we're going to talk about some more here in a second. Could it be that due to our want of safety and anytime access to a child with a phone, that it could open up doors at a much more exponential, worse opportunities and things happening to our students, our children, because if we want that one thing, we want to be able to contact them anytime, but we're giving them something way more, because this is a smartphone, and they do make other phones. If it's really about safety, maybe they get some other kind of phone that really just you could text. I mean, they make all kinds of things. You can even I have a flip phone. I bought 2 off eBay for $20 a pop. And they come with a year of service. That's going to be one of your safer options. So let's think about that. Sometimes they don't need, if it's really about safety, they don't need the Cadillac or the Tesla version. Okay. Yeah. Cadillac. And then, I'm updating my presentation. What about cyberbullying? When students were bullied before smartphones, they could be bullied at school. Sometimes the bully gets in trouble, sometimes they don't. But they usually get to go home and escape. And it wasn't a persistent thing all day. But if we're giving our students devices, especially at that young age, they might be experiencing 24/7 access to cyberbullies. And your definition of cyberbully, you may be picturing something. We all have different definitions of this. I'm just trying to think of people who are online who make my children feel bad, make them feel sad. They say bad things about them, and they can't escape it. You could block them, and then they figure out a way to get around it. So, how do we escape cyberbullying? I say we just minimize as parents of young children, because their brains haven't developed yet to really deal with all that conflict. Is say let's not give them a lot of access, because unless you're with them all the time and you can have these conversations, this is a lot of work if you want to be with your child all the time and ensure they're not being cyberbullied. Someone asked earlier when I started the presentation, hey, Lou Fraser, hey, welcome to the show. They said, Brian, what about predators online? I'm glad they said that, because I think for a long time in our country, we were really worried about this free candy, the white windowless van coming to get our kids, and it make great news. But you know what's not making great news is the fact that technology access is putting these people who once drove these vans, is putting them in the pocket of children all across our world. And they're very sneaky. They go by different names, by different avatars. Some of them will go into certain games online with your child, and maybe their avatars or cartoon characters. They may try to make some kind of physical act on a child, like even though their avatars are trying to do something very scandalous to that child, which you'd be blown away. You would cry if you ever saw something like that. That's what we're giving. That's the things that are happening now, but they don't get the sensation as these vans did back in the 80s and the 90s. And we need to be reminded of that. We actually had here in Northeast Georgia, we had a child through Fortnite who was contacting somebody through Fortnite. Just by the way, I play Fortnite. I haven't played in forever. I'm really bad at it. And we have to have protocols for all this stuff. Was talking to somebody from Pennsylvania. Actually, that person came down to Northeast Georgia to meet that child. was eventually arrested. That story could have been much more different. Could have been awful. And so we got to have these talks and just know that just or teaching our children, just because someone's talking to you online, you have no idea that they're the person they say they are. And I hate that we have to live in a world we have to question everything, but we got to question everything. And they get to learn that from you. What about gaming? Parental controls. I just talked about Fortnite for a second. Did you know that like this, I think that I gave an Xbox version here, but in PlayStation 2, that there are tons of parental settings. You can say, you know what? Only people I get to see online or who get to see me online are friends. And you can also limit how much time they have access to gaming. Because that's another thing. How much time do we really want a kindergartner or a first grader up to sixth grade? How much do we want them on games per day? Maybe it's a Saturday and you're like, you know what? We didn't do a lot of games this week. I'm giving you a block chunk of time on a Saturday. That might make sense for your family, but to be on games every day after school for 6-7 hours, watching YouTube all day, that right there, what if that time was spent doing something much more productive? And not to say YouTube can't be productive, but from the most conversations I have with students, YouTube is simply a consumption opportunity. We're just taking in things. Some kids are making, they're creating, they're learning, and they want to do cool stuff. But for the vast majority of students, it is just consumption. So yes, parental controls. If you want to know how to do any of this, I advise you go to YouTube and search parental controls, Xbox, parental controls, iPhone, parental controls, PlayStation. All right, here we go. I want to close out with some questions. I know we got a great crowd on tonight, but I want to give you some steps you could actually do. So I gave you some ideas. Now here's something. Now some of you wanted something very specific from me. You came in, you said, Brian, I want you to tell me a magic app that'll make all my problems go away. Well, some people sell things that they call magic apps that make problems go away, but they don't. And here's the thing. A lot of times they get parents in trouble because those apps become reliant on them, where we're not having to spend a lot of time as a parent or guardian with our child asking these questions and talking about time and all this. And we just say, this one thing's going to cover everything. I don't have to deal with it. I'm very busy, Brian. But those things right there, sometimes they don't work. They may not cover everything on a phone or a tablet. They do cost, a lot of them do. The best ones do cost money. And here's the thing. A lot of people don't give a lot of credit to young students and how smart they are. But a lot of kindergarten through sixth grade students, if they want to learn something, they'll go to YouTube. YouTube, how to get around this thing that my mom or dad put on my device. And that's why I don't mention those things, because I really think this is the most valuable way that we could be investing our time as parents and guardians when it comes to students. So number one, and by the way, I don't think anybody here is too far behind. You're like, Brian, I've already opened up the can of worms. It's going to be hard to put the worms back in the can of worms. Yeah, back in the can. I don't think anybody's too late, but it's going to cause some pain probably because we've always done things a certain way. Number one, share expectations, boundaries, consequences. What does that mean? So some of you actually, let's take a little break. Some of you need to take a picture of this. Take a screenshot. This is your homework, everybody. And like I said, everybody's different. Every family's different. You could take this and kind of make it mean something for you, but this is what I have to give you. And these are steps you could take to improve your children's digital lives. So here we go. What does that mean? Share expectations. I expect the phone or tablet to be on a special counter at 6 p.m. Or whenever bedtime is, or at the dinner time. At dinner time, all phones are not at the table, or just everybody. Some of you don't even eat at the table. I get it. We're all busy, but what's your expectations, your boundaries for your family? And then we got consequences. This is what I've learned about, and I'm not a child psychologist. I don't understand everything about what goes on in their brain, but I do know that children They do want to know boundaries, expectations, and upfront the consequences. Like what's going to happen if I do this thing? It's like, you know what? You may lose some time on your device. You may not be able to game, but be very upfront. Some people call this a contract. Like we're talking kindergarten through sixth grade. You may not want to do a contract with young students. It might be a middle school, high school thing. But there's some ideas. Create a schedule for tech use. How much tech do you want your kids to have access to? It's just a legit question. You know, I- I'll tell you, probably the best way to say this is probably we could all do less. Like, maybe you start with 1 hour less because we do 6 hours a day. A lot of students when they're at school, they're on technology a lot. And to come home and get right back on it again, but especially with that young age, they have some other things they could be doing that's not just tablet or phone. Set up those parental controls. This next one, regularly check devices. That means it's nightly, it's every 2 nights. It is I'm talking like it's on your phone. You set a reminder. We set reminders to do all kinds of things. This is important. And then have open communication. Can your child, do they feel open to talk to you about these things? Or do they feel like or do they feel pressured to lie about something? So open communication, talking about why we have these expectations, these boundaries, these consequences, and talk to them about it without fear. That might be tough because, a lot of students are going to, they're, especially if they already had access to a lot of these things, unfiltered access. They're like, whoa, this is too much. But it's going to be important in the long run to have the open communication, especially as they get older. And here, I'm going to give you some personal recommendations. So that was your homework, what to do, and some personal recommendations. I would delay giving a phone as long as possible. Like, it was a good. I'm checking the chat here from Nova Scotia. Don't do a routine schedule, or they can clean up before you check. Thanks. Thank you so much for including that. If we're talking about young children, limit to texting and calling. If we're talking about phones and devices, we're talking about information. I would monitor YouTube. A lot of people just say free access to YouTube. Here's what I know. All of you have different family values. Everybody's different. And some things on YouTube you would not want your child to see, hear, try. So YouTube may be something that you say, you know what? You can only do that in a public setting with me in the room. Heart attack, right? But that's important. And then and that included the Surgeon General recommendation: no social media until 16 plus. Because here's one thing, it's something I want for you all and your children. I want them to stay children as long as they can. We only get to be a child once. And you know what all these devices do? And this information does, if we're not careful, it makes us grow up. We see things we shouldn't see. We hear people say things they shouldn't be saying. We get hurt when we shouldn't be getting hurt like that. And so I would be delaying as long as possible when it comes to a phone to a child. So that's some personal recommendations. And then if it has to be for safety, you could just give them a flip phone or something. All right, so let's do this. So you guys were super awesome. And Matthew Gray and Fairbanks said not just the YouTube clips, but the ads too. So yeah, so that stuff, your child may be watching Barney, which is a super old reference, and then boom, it's like ads. Ads are everywhere. They're inappropriate. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. 1 second. There we go. And now you can just see my beautiful face, is what you all came for. And let's do this. In the comments, as we close out, we got about 2 minutes. What was a big takeaway from tonight's presentation? What was something that stuck out to you? It's like, Brian, this thing right here, this is important. This spoke to me. Who could put that in the chat? Kind of let me know what was working for you. If you're able to, if you're not, that's okay. But you can also put questions in there. I'll take a few extra minutes for questions if you like. I am going to put a survey down here. So in the bottom, because this chat right here is really provided by Pioneer RESA, which is a educational co-op here in Northeast Georgia. They allow me to do these kind of talks, and I'm thankful for them, and so are our member districts here. But the whole planet was welcome to watch tonight if they wanted. But they would like to kind of keep some attendance. If you're in Northeast Georgia and you'd like to let them know that, hey, I did tune in, my child goes to the school, you can do that in this little form. I just put, hopefully that form works. Nope, that didn't work. Let me try one more time. Maybe one day the form will come through. All right, so anybody else want to add to the conversation? What was your biggest takeaway from tonight? Rachel said, "How far a predator will go to take someone's child."